Hey guys, it's Aaron King from Photog Adventures. Today on Astrophotog, I'm going to use PhotoPills to show you how you can see, is that Milky Way core going to be blocked by some mountain or some terrain that's in my path, or am I going to see it? The Milky Way is back. The Milky Way is back. The Milky Way is back. And so it's back, but barely above the horizon. And so I thought, okay, I want to talk about this and show and teach how to use the pin-to-pin geodetic info, because that's what I had to do. I had to go, okay, I'm going to stand here in the salt flats. Will I be able to see the Milky Way core, or can I even see it from other locations like the silo that I like to go to that's only 45 minutes away? So this is what I do, and this is how I find out. So over on Stellarium, I want to show you what it looks like to have the Milky Way at this time of season. So check it out, Stellarium. Free app on a Mac, PC, Linux, whatever you got. It works really well. So go over here. I'm going to look towards the southeast, and then let's bring it from tonight, right now, where it is the sunset happening here, and fast forward to later in the morning. And boom. So right around 6 o'clock this morning, the Milky Way is going to rise. The core is going to be above the horizon, the actual horizon. Now, the problem is that it's going to be very low. And so we want to use PhotoPills to check on this and make sure everything is good, that I can actually see it if I go out for a certain dark sky location, and make sure that, okay, if I stand here, will I actually be able to see the Milky Way core? So what we're going to do here is use the pin-to-pin geodetic info module in the Planner app to make sure, okay, if I'm standing here and looking out towards these hills, will the hills be too tall to block my view of the Milky Way? And this pin-to-pin geodetic info is this button up here in the module. You can see it gets this black pin, and there's a dotted line between you are the red pin, you and the area you're trying to find. So say you're standing in between here and you want to top of this mountain peak. You got an idea that that's the highest point. You look at it and you're like, okay, put the pin there. Let's see what I can see around it if I'm standing there looking that direction. To make a little more sense of how this pin-to-pin geodetic info is working, let me draw it up. And so let me have some fun with drawing for a minute. So this is you. Pin. And you're standing on a horizon. Here's the horizon in the distance. You're standing on the ground next to, let's do the silo. My favorite place, the silo. Oh, I gotta draw this well. Rectangle. And another rectangle. Yeah, so the silo kind of looks like that. Imagine I wanted to shoot around the silo and have a composition where the silo is here, the Milky Way is here, the horizon's there, and that's my frame. Imagine that's what I'm doing. And so I'm standing here and deciding, well, there is this, let me get another color. Let me get some brown. That looks kind of brown. And I'll draw it with the big pen. So there's this hill right here, but not terribly tall. It's just there. It's in my way. I know that this could block potentially the Milky Way. So the Milky Way, in this situation, as you saw already, it's kind of low on the horizon because it's sort of horizontal right now. It's barely up. You've got your pin where you are, and then you say, well, this is the highest point of the spot right here. So I'm going to put my pin, and so will my view between me and this actually be clear, or will it be blocked by the elevation information of this topographical map that they have? And they know that the mountains and other things that are nature, they know the height and elevation map of these, but they don't know buildings. So you can't use this for buildings, you can't use this for man-made towers, all that crap, but you can tell if the mountain is going to be in the way, if the hill's up there, or if when you go in this valley, does it mean that you're too low, like in Bryce Canyon? If I draw it like this, where, hey, here's you, you're standing on the ground right here. Over here is a mountain. And you're thinking, I want to have a sunset over there. I want to see the moon over there. I want to see the Milky Way core over there. But is that mountain between me and the Milky Way, between me and the sun, actually going to block my view? And so this is what the pin-to-pin geodetic info is doing, is that it lets you lay out a pin right here, the black pin, somewhere on the mountain peak. And then my orange pin, my red pin where I'm at, is where it's saying, okay, from your elevation there to this spot, the elevation change is, it's up It's changing like that. And so you guys are aware, what's it saying? That's 16.8 degrees. You can see it right there as that big banner above the black bin. 16.8 degrees. What does that mean? Well, you can look out on the horizon and put your fist, full arm out in a fist and go, okay, that's 10 degrees, 10, 10. Every fist is about 10 degrees roughly. So if you go out and go like that, you can tell that's 30 degrees high in the sky, 40, 50. And so when you see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, you get an idea of what is or where is that going to show up in my sky. And so when you look in and see 16.8 degrees is the top part of that mountain. So anything above 16.8 degrees, I'm going to see it. If the moon is at 17 degrees, I'm going to see it. If the Milky Way core is at 17 degrees, I'm going to see it. And it shows this dotted line. Well, what happens when I go to the sunrise? See the sun line? As I bring the sun line to right there, it goes dotted too. And so this is what happens is you've got a dotted line right next to your pin. Further away from your pin, it doesn't give you any information. So it's kind of just this little range around your pin that it will actually update the dotted line. And it'll say, hey, you know what? If you're looking that direction and you want that mountain to not be in your way, it's actually in your way. Here's a dotted line to represent it. Let's try Owachomo Bridge. This one's a challenge because I'm actually deep into a pit. I'm low, but I'm kind of in the slot. Maybe the canyon right there isn't blocking anything. So I like to switch my map over to the Open Cycle Map Classic because I get a little bit of topographical information. It's not a true topographical map, but I get a little bit more. So let me look at some of the higher points. So I'm kind of just moving it along the pathway that I'm looking. Oh, I'm starting to see it being blocked from this. Okay. You can see how when I put my pin down right there, that's definitely blocking it. And the view from there to there, let's go back to satellite. So I can see a little bit of layering that's happening out there in the distance where there's going to be a difference of 2.8 degrees. And that's just too high for the Milky Way. So I know that that is going to block my Milky Way. So even if I had a clear path between there and there, that horizon is just too high. I need the Milky Way to get above 2.8. That's unfortunate. And this time of the year in January, I would never go to Owachomo Bridge and go down and try and make this work. But in February, I bet it can. How will I know? Quick tap of the Milky Way, it goes to the next new moon. And this took me to February 15th. So you can see how the Milky Way is now visible for a good portion of the morning. And right there at that part in the morning, nah, not visible. Let's go over here. What about this part of the morning? Ooh. See, now the elevation of the Milky Way goes from, yeah, it obviously answers that question because this was 2.9. And so when the Milky Way was over here below 2.9, it wasn't visible. When it got above 2.9, obviously, it's visible. At least the center of the Milky Way is visible. So you can see how with Geodetic Info, you can put your pin of where you are and what your terrain is like to see, is this going to be high enough to block my view? And I would have thought maybe with all of this gap, I could see it. But the very distant spot that started getting higher than me, I put that pin there and it tells me, hey, from where you're standing to where this is, it's a difference of 2.8 degrees. And that's just high enough to block the Milky Way that still, from that perspective, is what, 1.8 or lower. We've gone over a lot of information so far. And so in order to make sure that I didn't forget anything and that you didn't miss anything, let's go ahead and do one last repeat of what this is and how to use your pin-to-pin geodetic info on PhotoPills in order to see if something in the distance is going to be blocked by a mountain, a dune, or something. So let's go ahead. I'm in Death Valley now. We parked at Badwater. We hiked out as far as we could. Maybe we just got lazy and we stopped here. Maybe it's flooded and we don't want to walk on it. Well, let's see. So this area right there, what are our chances of seeing the Milky Way in today's time, January? Very small sliver. Bring my geodetic pin info back. Let's put it on one of these rocky terrains. The difference is 6.2. What about over here? 5.7. We know it's 1.2 elevation from down here. It says galactic center is at 1.2 elevation at this time. So from 506 on, it's highest it even gets before Astronomical Twilight? Let's just find out. What's the tap? On the right, Astronomical Twilight begins at 525. The highest it ever gets is 4 elevations. So we would need to be in a location where the things between us and the Milky Way are 4 elevation or lower. That's the only way we'll be able to see it. I hope this makes sense to you guys. It's kind of a crazy situation to guess. If you looked at this, you wouldn't have thought, oh, pin-to-pin geodetic info, completely on board. And so this is how I use it. It works for the moon, it works for the Milky Way core, and it works for the sun. And so when it has these things in its path, you know, okay, well, that's going to be a good spot for it. There's other ways to do this. There's really awesome things in here in the PhotoPills app that you just don't know about, and we have a lot more videos coming that are going to teach you about them, especially the find tool. Love that find tool. So thanks for listening, guys. Again, I'm Aaron King with Photog Adventures, and see you tomorrow. I told you yesterday about the Milky Way Photography course that's coming out on February 2nd. We're not talking about stacking. We're not talking about star tracking. This is for beginners who need to know all of the basics to get going and do single image photography and panorama photography. There's a few things I need to finish recording. I'm in the studio right now recording the last little clips, and so I'll be done by February 2nd, and then it will go live. And when it does go live, it'll be $97. Those of you who follow us, I want to make sure that you're getting in and getting a cheaper price. And so $67 is available right now for pre-order. Thanks so much for following. We'll see you guys later.